We are back now at 7:46. If you're scared stiff these days about the economy, you're not alone. But peak performance coach and life strategist Anthony Robbins says you can actually use fear to your advantage as you chart a path for the future. Hey, Tony, good to have you back.
Thank you, Matt.
You were here not long ago and you talked about at these times you need to be prepared. It was all about preparation. But could anybody have been prepared for the kind of times we're seeing right now?
Well, can anybody be prepared for what Casey just experienced? Or your cameraman Ken, I guess you reported on him a few weeks ago, and I met him backstage talking about cancer. We have to prepare ourselves psychologically, emotionally, because the world has changed forever. We have gone through a transition to winter, and it's affecting everybody. I'm getting thousands of people emailing me, coming up to the street and saying, what do I do? What do I tell my son or my daughter? Or am I going to have a future? And the interesting thing is it's the only time since 9/11 that I've seen in my lifetime where everybody's affected, the billionaire and the barber. We're in it together right now.
So for the person who has seemingly lost half of their retirement account, they're not sure they can pay their mortgage, they certainly can't pay for gas on a daily basis, what do you tell them? Concrete advice to do now.
You know, if I just say something, it sounds like positive thinking. So I created a site called The Power of Crisis. And what I've got people from all over the world doing is sharing their stories. Because what we need are role models. We need to know we've been through this before. If you haven't been through it financially, maybe you're through health, or maybe with your family. If you've got somebody who's been raped, or somebody who's been robbed, or somebody that lost everything, and then you see how they changed their life. And also, if you go to the site and answer these 5 questions, you say, what's a crisis you've already been in? What pulled you through? What strategy? What belief? So we pull out of you what's real, and we also pull from other people like Casey what they did.
I want to get to some of your tips in a second. Just curious, though, do you tell people during these times, stop reading the newspaper, stop watching the news, or is information power at any time?
Well, actually, information is very valuable, but which information? The whole idea of we are what we eat is so corny, but we feed our mind, we experience. So if you're sitting watching the news and everybody's saying to you there's going to be bread lines, even if that were true, it's not going to help you right now. So my focus is, first, you got to make a decision about, when I was sitting back with Casey, I said, tell me something, how did you get through this? And he said, when I was in the hospital, the first thing I did is I decided this was not going to beat me. And most people haven't made that decision yet. And then the second thing you got to do is you got to face your fear. You really have to be in a position that fear is what is consuming people right now, pure panic. And the way you deal with that, Matt, is you get physical. Because fear is a physical thing. It's in your gut. It's in your body. And what science has shown, you go for a run, you go work out, you go lift weights intensely and make that a ritual. And when the blood's pumping through and the oxygen's there, you have a totally different perspective.
Let me go through a couple of real quick things. Embrace the pessimism. Are you talking about embracing your own pessimism or others' pessimism and taking it as an opportunity?
I'm saying fine. Last time I was with you, I mentioned Sir John Templeton.
Right.
He's another role model. I put an interview that I did with him because he made all his money during maximum pessimism. When markets were crashing, he made all his money. So he'd look over at Schwab right now that has $27.8 billion in cash, and the market value is $21 billion. And he'd say, this is a no-brainer. So what I really want people to do is see how to model that. So I put my interview on thepowerofcrisis.com so you can learn from Templeton himself how to change, how to use pessimism to your advantage.
And lastly, in about 30 seconds left, you said something else to me last time. You said this is a great time when you're hurting personally to go out and offer help to other people. Not only do you help that person, but it does something for your own psyche as well.
Casey did that. Ken did that. I tell people that this is the most important thing to remember. The season's changed. The last 2 decades of our lives have been about position, materialism, you know, some extent greed for many people. And that's kind of like what it was in the Roaring 20s. What happened when the Depression happened is the value system completely changed. What were the 40s and 50s about? It wasn't what do I get, it's what do I give. You knew your neighbor. You cared more about your family. You were there. It was about love. And when people die, I've been there with people as they pass. Corny as it sounds, nobody talks about the trophy they won. Nobody talks about the house they had. They talk about the times in their life of the people that they really loved and the people that touched them and they touched. So I want people to realize this is winter. It's a new season. It doesn't last forever. What follows that is springtime again.
Right.
You got to prepare yourself. But it's a great time. It could be the best time of your life if you learn how to use it.
Anthony Robbins. Tony, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And by the way, I want to mention Tony's going to be back to answer your questions later in the show. If you'd like to send one in, go to our website. Of course, that's todayshow.com.